Welcome to the B Labs Tech Studio in Jersey City. Today is October 6, 2017, and today we'll be focused exclusively on the principle and the concept of marketing. We'll be focusing on a specific system and a methodology that's been created over the past 15 years called 7 Pillars, and particularly the tool that the 7 Pillars utilizes in order to really organize its system called the marketing matrix. Why we're focusing on this today? Well, in the concept of the modern world, entrepreneurship, the business world, marketing is an often underestimated tactic or area. It's one of, I would argue, the two main important areas that drive a business, that determine its viability and its success. Peter Drucker, one of the fathers of modern management and most quoted authors in MBA programs and business schools across the country, once said that innovation and marketing are the two important factors and functions that drive business. Everything else is just a cost. And I agree. When it comes to innovation, you have to have a great product. You have to have a starting point and a value proposition. What's unique about what it is you're offering that makes you more viable than your competitor across the street. And now once you have that product in hand or that differentiator, it's all about the marketing. Marketing is the way you go about selling. It's the way you go about communicating your unique value proposition to your target audience. So it's a very important function, one that's often underutilized, underestimated, and misunderstood. It's also where I feel there's the most fantasy that happens for entrepreneurs and business owners, because they don't understand it or take a scientific approach. We tend to idealize or be overly optimistic about what kind of results that can be achieved in this area. So when it comes to a startup or even a more mature business, and even large Fortune 500 companies, more dollars than almost any other department generally go into marketing and advertising. And the 7 Pillar system that we'll be diving into today is one of the frameworks and a tool that I would argue is the most complete system, end-to-end system for everything to do with analyzing, budgeting, managing execution, and then ultimately measuring results, measuring the bottom line of how a business is doing and how various marketing campaigns are performing. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to dive into the matrix, and I will give you a very detailed, not just an overview, but we'll get a taste of what the process is like to engage with the marketing matrix in order to help you organize your marketing efforts. So see you in a moment. Welcome back, and welcome to the Matrix. We're going to dive into what we call the marketing matrix, which is essentially a tool to help you organize your marketing efforts. And it's a product of the 7 pillars of digital marketing framework, which was established back in 2004. So we're now going on the 14th year of this evolving, ever-evolving system that has helped hundreds of different companies, has been deployed across thousands of marketing campaigns worldwide, to the tune of multiple millions of dollars spent and vetted. So the system's been refined and developed over time. And again, the system is a map essentially for everything from learning, budgeting, strategizing, actual managing execution, and then analyzing the results for your overall marketing efforts and campaign. Again, it was created as a way to help an agency, a marketing agency, Blue Liner, which invented it, to help its clients and communicate with them around the efforts that it was doing on their behalf. And it has evolved since then. And what does it really start with? It starts with the people. The first thing you have to start with when you look at the goals you have as a business and the goals you have for your marketing effort is, who are the people that are going to work on it? Are they capable of doing the tactics and the strategies that we envision would help us be successful? And do they have the right tools and the resources? Are they empowered on the company's behalf to get the job done, essentially? So we have to look at the people, and we have to look at the chemistry between the people. Here you can see a quick visual of just a sample team structure or an org chart related to a marketing effort, and you can see how complicated it can get once you have 4, 5, 6, 7 different functional areas. If you focus on the 7 pillars of digital, and each pillar might have a different team lead, now these 7 people have to work together well, typically under the guidance of a project manager. And sometimes you might have 7 very qualified people, but the chemistry between them, or the communication, or the setup, because they're working in different time zones and different offices. There's all kinds of subtle assumptions and variations in the way teams are configured. We like to use that terminology, configuration, often, and ask, well, what is the configuration? Is it a virtual work team? Is it a team that comes together and works and has a daily stand-up every morning and stays in sync by being in each other's presence? So there's a lot of questions and different options, naturally, that businesses have when they go about establishing and creating their marketing campaigns. So asking yourself that question and applying what's being said to your current situation, ask yourself about the chemistry between the in-house team, between any agencies that you work with. Something that we do within the 7-pillar system is actually evaluate each person through what we call a marketing personality type assessment. So it's kind of like a psychological assessment to see what people's general preferences, tendencies, and personality is from a working and business perspective. And here you can see a sample chart for myself. We have 7 different types, but 6 that we focus on primarily, because the 7th type, as we term visionary, is really kind of the most elevated type, and it's a combination of the other 6. But here you can see that no one is 100% of one thing, right? We all have different elements of different personality traits, and the same goes for our working personality type. But some of these types, like someone being a number cruncher, very comfortable with numbers and analytics and maybe code as a developer, versus someone that's a great information gatherer. That's someone who can do great research, bring together ideas, work on SWOT analysis, build PowerPoints, versus a hunter, which is someone that's very good on the sales front, someone that can get up in front of a room and talk and present ideas, versus more of a farmer, which is maybe a little bit more of a behind the scenes, or someone that likes to organize things. So these are just examples of the different types. I just described 4 of them. I won't go through all of them, but this really highlights a key factor here, which again often gets overlooked, which is, what is the chemistry between all of the different people working on a particular campaign or a particular project? Is everyone motivated? Is everyone focused? Or is one person on the team working on 10 other projects that even though they're very capable of doing a good job on this project, they just don't have the time or the bandwidth to give it what the other team members are, which creates a bit of a mismatch. So it's a lot of factors when it comes to chemistry. That's something that comes to light through the process here of working with the 7 pillars and particularly of working with the marketing matrix. Let's get a little bit of a look on a visual, because there's an application that's actually being built right now around this visual concept and these components that we're discussing about the marketing matrix. And what you can see here is the 7 pillars across the top, and then you have the second dimension, which is the second modes, which is basically the process that you go through in any typical work or marketing effort. You start with some kind of brainstorming or some kind of ideation where the initial ideas come from and the initial research. It's essentially like the discovery stage when you're really at the outset of a project. Although hopefully, in a good team, brainstorming continues to happen even as you move through into other phases. Usually it starts at the beginning and continues. This is really the creative aspect or creative mode, which again, that engine should always be turning, but right at the beginning, before you've actually established strategy or even budget, things are very wide open, which is why this is really the first mode. Again, not to go through all of them, but just to, again, come back to the matrix view. We have essentially an organizational system where all of your process, the profile of your business, which includes your products, how they're priced, what kind of customers you're targeting, what the customer lifetime value is. So how much do you value a customer, which should then help you determine what kind of customer acquisition cost makes sense. So again, there's a lot of math and numbers and kind of science behind the scenes and behind all the different tactics that could be employed, which helps you as the business owner boil everything down to the bottom line, because ultimately that's all business owners and shareholders, entrepreneurs really care about, is getting the ultimate result. And what we're delving into here is just kind of going into that black box of marketing and trying to understand the science a little better. What's under the hood, and how can you give yourself a chance to better optimize your entire marketing initiative? And that's what the marketing matrix helps us do. So with that all being said, as an overview, I'm going to take this opportunity to dive a little bit deeper in by showing you some screens from our application and from the process that people that take the courses at the 7 Pillars of Digital Marketing Academy get in a very hands-on fashion. People that take the boot camps and the courses come out with this process having been done rigorously, and they come out with all of the benefits of it, which is you have a new ROI-driven marketing plan, which has all of the proper assumptions and has analyzed your people, your product, your pricing, and put it all into a perspective to help you come up with a strategy, a very tactical, specific month-to-month strategy over however long your campaign or your goals reside, whether it's a 6-month or a 1-year view. You come out of that process of working with the marketing matrix with a full-on, actionable marketing plan. And that's something you can use as you start actually deploying the plan to compare naturally the actual performance and results to all of this assumption-based models that are built through this process, and then making refinements along the way. So let's take a deeper look in here. Again, it all starts with an assessment. It starts with basic, as we call, profile wizard and a setup where we start asking the most basic questions. And in this case, is the matrix primarily for a marketing team? Is it for an individual? Is it for a company? Or is it for a specific campaign? So let's assume that we're going for a campaign here. And once we do that, or decide that we're actually measuring a marketing campaign, then the questions come about well, what time frame is this campaign? Is it a 3-month campaign, a 1-year campaign? Who's the target audience? So here in this view, we can see how we take data inputs, such as what are the target audience and who are the different customer segments. It's highly advisable. It's part of Pillar 5, which is CRM, Customer Relationship Management. Part of the main process under CRM is to create effective segmentation, which means you really need to know your customer base and know that if you have 5 or 4 different groups or types of customers, how to really classify them behaviorally, demographically, if you have customers from different cities or different states or countries that speak different languages, that have different socioeconomic backgrounds, different ethnicities. All of these different factors or different characteristics, generally will group together in what we would call, in marketing language, personas or customer segments. So this is some of the inputs that we take at the beginning of a process, and most businesses already have a good idea of that. Then we dive into, once we've finished kind of a basic profiling, we look again at the modes. And here you have a nice view. It's a canvas style view of again, taking the matrix, which you see the modes along the left side there, M1 through 7, and then you can see them in a canvas format. So here we're getting a high-level look at how a company that's been using the matrix for a little while is performing. We like to get a high-level view using color coding, like green for performing well, yellow for average, red for not so good. And then, the matrix tool and process gives us the ability to have a high-level view like this and then delve in deeper into a specific area that may be problematic. Like in this case, if we've got a good strategy, we've got a good budget, we feel like we have a solid team, but why is there a problem in execution? We're not getting the results that we hoped we would or that we had projected. So let's dive deeper into that. And is it a problem with execution, or were our assumptions and goals maybe at the outset unrealistic? Those are questions that can be answered, again, utilizing this methodology, process, and these tools as we move through a particular campaign. All of this, by the way, requires a tremendous amount of discipline, and it requires having a marketing expert kind of overseeing the overall campaign that has a bird's eye view and knows how to utilize this kind of methodology, these kind of tools, in order to really take a systematic approach. So just kind of moving through here, again, we talk about the pillars all the time, and the name of the overall system is the 7 pillars. But actually, there's more than 7 pillars. There's 7 pillars just on the digital side, and then there's 7 more on the traditional side. Let's not forget about traditional marketing and how it is the foundation and the base upon which digital marketing has been able to kind of come of age and be developed as kind of a next generation and a more modern style of marketing. Traditional marketing still has a very strong place. So nowadays, the best agencies are all about integrated marketing. So when we take the 7 of digital and the 7 of traditional and kind of merge them together, we actually don't get 14, we get 12, because 2 of the pillars, content and advertising, really kind of merge and become one bigger pillar that you develop content, for example, for your brochures and for all of your traditional marketing materials, and then you reuse essentially all of that same content in your online channels. So it's a different distribution channel, but it's really the same overall core marketing function. And so the overall concept of 7 pillars, our general premise and advice is that you have to perform well and choose to focus on roughly 7 pillars, right? So you've got, let's say, 12 in the list here, and you're not going to maybe do every one of these, like, let's say, events or direct marketing or PR. Certainly every company, most companies don't have the budget to engage in all of these tactics and strategies, but our advice and the best practice that we've seen is that you have to do well, or at least be up to a certain level at roughly 7 of these, right? Things like content and design and branding, you just can't get away from. Those are like core foundational elements of your product and of your marketing communications that need to be done well, tailored to the right audience in order for everything else to, all the advertising and social media to flow well. So they become kind of foundational. CRM, how you manage your customers, that's something that you can't get away from. So some of these are absolutely essential for every company, and other ones are just kind of important for some companies and not as much for others, and obviously budget specific as well. So again, this is kind of like a menu. We have, and under this menu of 12 pillars, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of different marketing tactics. So just imagine kind of like a periodic table of all possible marketing tactics, and that is something that exists in a database under this framework, this 12 pillars of integrated framework. But this really comes later in the process, right? When we're trying to understand our target audience and what our unique selling propositions are, we're not thinking about tactics at that point. We're really trying to just understand who we are, what our company is, what it represents, what kind of customers we're trying to connect with, and then we work through the modes and the process to establish goals. And then we come to strategy, which starts to touch on tactics. So what happens, I think, is a lot of people start jumping the gun and just wanting to go straight to execution, straight to tactics. Teach me everything about social media. Show me everything about SEO so I can do what I need to do. So it's kind of like going into certain depth and detail without understanding the big picture or having a map. And it becomes somewhat random and can be frustrating in the end, and people often don't know why. And this is the reason why. We have to kind of start with a higher level perspective, develop a strategy, work through a process, and then get down to tactical decisions. And again, that's what this framework helps us do. So we can look at a view here. Now this is more of a pillars-based view. We're looking across the top. You could see the blue highlighted border for P1 through 7. That's all 7 pillars that are now represented on this canvas here. And we can see how the pillars, all kind of like puzzle pieces, interact and interrelate. Search, media, social being at the top, because those are the 3 main pillars which are focused on lead generation or awareness building, how we essentially capture the attention of potential customers at the very top of the funnel. And then in the middle you have content and design, which again usually form the basis of your websites, of your products. This is where you're trying to use those first 3 channels at the top to drive people into. And then ultimately CRM is at the bottom because it's at the bottom of the funnel. We're trying to drive a user or a potential customer through a journey, or as we say in the industry, a user journey into becoming either a lead or an active customer that we then hopefully can utilize, have a good product, they can have a good customer experience, and we can utilize our CRM system and skill to maintain the right level of communication with each customer so that they can refer other customers and continue to stay with us as a happy customer. So you can kind of get a glimpse here on how the matrix has a big picture, kind of high level view on things. Again, on the right side you can see, and this is a screenshot from really basically a mock-up that's going into our application development of an activity stream where project team members interact and can kind of chat with each other and can be updated on who's doing what. And then we can go deeper. We can go from bird's eye view into a deeper view. So let's say we're looking at the pillars through the matrix here, and then we want to look specifically at mode 4, which is people, which, as we talked about at the top, it's really all about the people that hopefully have the right level of skill and have been granted the right types of resources, including ad budgets and tools, to get the job done. And in this view, we can look at the 7 pillars and go deeper and see who's in charge in each of the 7 areas. So in this case, you have Taylor in charge of search, and then you can see who's working with her, Billy, Janet, And then those are internal resources, and then an external resource, an agency, Blue Liner, and then within Blue Liner, who the team is that's working. So we can get kind of a bird's eye view of who's part of that particular team, how long that team's been together, how long the lead, Taylor in this case, has been in charge. So we get a general sense of what's the stability and what's the kind of continuity that we have, which is an important concept in any business. Just like a team, a sports team, having the same people year over year, helps us understand what we're probably getting from those folks, and what the skill levels are and how much time and energy those people are investing on a particular week or a particular month. So again, this is what the matrix helps us do. It helps us kind of encapsulate all the different facets and components of our marketing and of our business into a very user-friendly framework where we can go bird's eye view and then we can dig into details. So just going a little deeper into this, here's another view of the 7 pillars from a tactical point of view. So now we know who's in charge of each area, how much time is budgeted in each particular pillar, and we're digging deeper. We're taking the pillar 2 design and we're going into execution mode, so you can see the cross section, and now you can see in detail what are the tasks that are actually happening in that area, what are the associated goals, and how much time is being allocated for those tasks, right? So again, now we're getting into execution and into kind of project management in detail, which is something that the system allows us to do. And at the end of the day, it's all about evaluating how we're doing, and the successful companies and entrepreneurs are the ones that take action quickly when they start getting insights like what we're looking at here, which is, again, a lot of dots on the screen here. You have 49 different areas that are being evaluated. So you have the cross-section of all 7 pillars and all 7 modes, and we're evaluating. Let's take the first column there, which is pillar 1, which is content, and we're evaluating our company or our campaign across content. So how are we doing on strategy, on people, on tools, on execution? In this case, it's showing not that good, but analytics is okay, which means we at least have the mechanism in place to measure how we're doing. Now we just have to possibly assign some better people, make sure they're empowered with the right tools, and they possibly aren't getting the right amount of budget that they need in order to execute. So again, macro, micro, and this is what the matrix allows us to do. Start at the highest level, bird's eye view, and then dig all the way down 7, 8 levels deep into micro details, which are ultimately the baseline at the cellular level. The essence of the campaign is at that detail level, but it needs to be informed by kind of a macro, high level kind of purpose, and be goal driven, be KPI driven. So I know we kind of went in a lot of directions here and presented a lot of detailed information. Hopefully it gives you a good overview on what the marketing matrix as an application, as a tool, being part of the 7 pillars framework as an overall methodology, the value that these tools and the system can bring. I mean, we've seen it, and it's been kind of proven in the marketplace for a long time as an overall system. And now that system is being decoupled from the agency in which it was born and being offered as a standalone educational tool, as a set of courses and as an application, I think it's going to be a great benefit and asset to entrepreneurs and marketers worldwide. So hopefully this gave you a good glimpse into the matrix, and there'll surely be more to follow and more detail in weeks to come. But for now, we're going to take another break and be back with some concluding thoughts. See you in a couple minutes.
just luck, just better.
You know, marketing is really a science. I've been in the field for over 20 years, and being of a kind of financial and numbers-oriented background myself, I've always kind of applied that scientific view and analytical process towards whatever it is that I was doing in marketing. Is this working? How much does this work? How does this compare to that? And that's what good marketers do. We constantly look at and evaluate and reconsider every single tactic, every single person, every single word that's on every page of the websites that we work with, because they make a difference. That's what multivariate A/B testing has proven. When you send an email out and you test using a red banner versus a blue banner, or a picture of a person smiling versus a picture of a building or some kind of scenery, you get a different response. And so the scientific process requires us to test those things, to test as many things as we reasonably can, and see what works best. And the challenge is those things, what works best, sometimes changes. What might work today, next year, won't work the same, because more people are looking at emails on their mobile device instead of on a widescreen laptop where they can view big widescreen images. So all kinds of factors, technological factors, environmental factors, societal factors, impact the changing tides of marketing and of customer experience, and the way people engage with different tools, different websites and products. And that's where systems like 7 Pillars and tools like the Marketing Matrix come into play, because they give us a framework and a structure and kind of timeless principles that can be applied to this ongoing, ever-changing basis of different tactics, new tactics, and the way, as I said, all kinds of external factors change what the scientific data shows, right? All of those changes need some kind of basis, some kind of stability, and that's what the Marketing Matrix provides. Again, it is really a science. There's a tangible component to that science, and then there's a real subtle, unseen component, and that's where things like chemistry between people come in. That's where, when we look at attribution, which is the way that you give credit to what tactic is really working to drive a certain result, it's very difficult to extract one tactic from another, because maybe the combination of, let's say, social media and paid search on Google is a winning combination. So we have to be flexible enough and fluid to look at attribution, not just singularly and everything in different silos, but how different things work in combination. And the chemistry between tactics, just like the chemistry between people, it's part of where the science becomes more like art, and it becomes more of a subtle concept, and it needs people who are at a high enough level to be observing everything, and to be able to then, based on that observation, be able to make tweaks, turn different dials, and continue to evaluate. Another challenge within that process is when you make changes, the results don't always show up right away. And if I make a change this month in October, how long am I going to wait to evaluate that? So if we get a good result in November, do I attribute that good result to these changes I made in October, or could it be based on some good activity that happened back in the summer? These are some of the ongoing challenges that marketers and entrepreneurs that we all face, and where, again, the more science we can apply to our process, the better. So again, hopefully you're able to glean something from taking a deeper dive into the Marketing Matrix. We will continue to revisit it, and as the application comes online, we will go into some real case studies utilizing the matrix, and hopefully be able to share that application with you, and you could utilize it in your own experience. But for now, we're going to sign off. Have a great day and a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Take care.